Most people, when thinking about poverty, recall this state as having not enough, having no access to basic needs such as housing, food, healthcare, and education are some of the describing words frequently thrown when the topic of poverty arises. Although these things are circumstances people actually go through, sometimes poverty involves something more complex and deeply rooted.
Shame. When you ask someone who has actually experienced a state of deprivation, a lot of them talk about feelings of isolation, anguish, and sorrow.
It is exhausting, dehumanizing, and most importantly, it makes you lose hope.
To these individuals, the material things are just something money can solve. It sort of gives you hope that when you get your hands on some cash, then you will have what you need.
However, the problem that comes after that is actually the one that crushes your spirit. How will you get that money? You see, being in a state of poverty is not necessarily solved by getting a job. Getting a job often entails you to have achieved a certain level of education, a house to receive your mails, a gadget to create the necessary documents that you need before you apply, and many other things that are not easily obtainable for the needy.
The generational trauma of experiencing the actual dangers that comes with poverty and not having anything to break away from it surrounds the experience with hatred. Hatred in many things, and an overwhelming sense of discouragement.
Moreover, in recent years, we can see the increase in the gap between the rich and the poor, where affluent people worry about what they will have for dessert, whilst the impoverished don't even have enough means to buy a cup of rice.
Although reforms about tax and other policies may help this issue, we can't stop the widening of the gap between the rich and the poor, especially if no one from the leaders would act voluntarily to make this happen.
So, what will help ease this inequality in income distribution?
A more equal community will be made possible with the help of those who are with power. They, out of all people, have the capability to make a revolution like this happen. They have the means to provide budget for different activities that benefit the needy.
One problem of our society nowadays, especially of the poor, is a small number of job opportunities for them. To make it worse, these jobs often require high academic degrees, a cause of concern for many. One of the main reasons for this suffering is brought about by the poor educational system in our country. Furthermore, projects that ease the educational burden, like scholarships, are rare and often have high requirements which are seldomly met. Of course, no one would think of continuing studying when their families are left starving.
Education is expensive. Even though there are public schools that offer no tuition fees, the cost of sending your child to school can be detrimental to a family's budget, especially when even attaining food necessitates hard work. It requires studying materials like computers, school supplies, and access to stable internet connection. These alone will cost too much money, making poor families resort to dropping schools. Uniforms, school supplies, and transportation fares. Instead of spending money for these, poor families will choose to pay for their bills and use the money for their daily meals.
Furthermore, the Philippines education system should be fixed, for it is one of the major roots of poverty. Schools often focus on excellent students while leaving mediocre students in the shadows. Each educator should place careful attention to every student without leaving anyone behind.
Additionally, our local workers work hard to earn for their families' expenses whilst being paid minimum wage. The bulk of the poor belong to the lower working class, which means that they are paid poorly for the labor they perform and the time they devote to it. Since this is one of the factors that contributes to the increasing gap between the rich and the poor, improving the overall condition of our workers along with an increase in the wages should be taken into account while thinking of ways to reduce poverty.
Another thing that can help address this gap is by raising different projects with the same goal of enhancing skills that are relevant for work. Examples of these projects are seminars or webinars that teach the necessary skills one might need in order to apply for jobs, or job fairs where employers gather in order to recruit staff. Creating workshops where different skills are thought to be a source of livelihood is also a project that might assist struggling individuals.
These projects can be advertised to the public in order to encourage the local unemployed people to start their own business with minimal capital, collaborate with other neighbors or unemployed people, or find jobs where they can put their talents to a test. One example of these events is the Street Youth Empowerment Project, or SYEP, where the volunteers were able to teach free dishwashing liquid making and meat processing for 18-year-old street youth.
The last and most crucial thing we can do to alleviate the poor's burden is to promote advocacies about equality and helping the poor.
As people of God, we should be the ones creating a movement to help those who are in need.
We should be the bridge that would lead them to a better path.
As the famous quote says, "No man is an island. No one lives in this world alone. We are surrounded by people, and God has given us the responsibility to care for them."
So if time comes when one is in need of assistance, we should help them and not leave them alone in the dark.
As children of God, we were born to be the ray of hope for other people shadowed by different dilemmas.
In summary, we can say that through creating more job opportunities,
Increasing the minimum wage for workers,
raising projects that aim to enhance the skills of individuals,
promoting advocacies which are mainly focused on helping the poor,
and investing in free education access in schools,
we can work to narrow down the growing wealth disparity between the rich and the poor.